Wow, you real estate agent's job is just too easy. You just open the door, close the door, and then you expect a commission from me. Hello everyone, welcome back to Connecting the Dots, where we unravel the complexities of real estate in Malaysia. I'm your host Joanne, and today I'm diving deep into one of the most critical aspects of property transaction, which is why hiring an agent to sell your property matters. You know, we hear this almost too often from sellers. I can sell the house by myself, why should I hire an agent? Wow, you real estate agent's job is just too easy. You just open the door, close the door, and then you expect a commission from me. Why should I do that, right? So let me just tell you a story about a seller that I met. So I think it was last year. It's a seller that told us he is probably in his 70s, maybe late 60s, 70s. And he told us this. He said, why should I hire you? Why should I pay you 2% or 3% commission when you sell my property? I said, why do you ask that? And then he said, you agent just want to take my money. You don't really think for me. You take my money and you want to press down my price so that you can sell the property easier. And I find that really puzzled. I said, why do you say that? And he said, I definitely lose my money if I hire you as an agent. And your job is really too easy. You come to my house, you take a look at my house, you take some photos, and then you tell me that, hey, you want to hang a banner outside my house. And then you open the house, you show the client, walk around, and then you close the door. And I feel that this job, even my maid can do it. So why should I hire an agent? I'd rather sell by myself. And you know what? When I hear this, right, actually I felt really sad. My heart just sank. Why? Is because what happened? In my mind, I said, what happened to the industry of a real estate agent? Has it become so bad that this is the impression that we get from sellers? And you know what? How I replied the particular seller, I said, Mr. Tan, are you speaking from your experience? Did you encounter such situation where you try to engage an agent to sell your property previously? And I'm just thinking, if I'm in your shoe and an agent was treating me like that, I'll also be very unhappy. So I told him, I said, you know what, Mr. Tan, I'm sorry for what you have experienced with this agent. And I promise you that if you hire me, your experience will be totally different. And guess what? The seller paused a moment and then he looked at me and he said, what do you mean? What do you mean that my experience with you will be different? Okay, let's just pause here for a moment. I'll continue the story later. Many do not understand why hiring an agent to sell a property is actually very important. According to the latest statistics, which I have it here, the Malaysia's average house price stood at 458,000, and Kuala Lumpur has Malaysia's most expensive housing with an average price of 770,000 in Q3 in last year. This figures is taken from JPPH. Now, if we put that figure into context, meaning on average, at least in KL, Klang Valley, sellers are disposing their property with the average amount of 700,000. Let's round it up. And this amount is definitely not a small sum to the majority people in KL. And with this asset that is in the 700,000, how would you actually sell it? It's not a small sum. It's not something that we should take it lightly. And if you do not have any experience in selling property, what would you do? I think nowadays, informations are just so saturated out there. You could easily YouTube tutorials and say, how should I sell myself by myself? How should I sell my house by myself? Right? That's very common. But would it really work? Would it help you to sell the house by yourself? I really doubt so because, in general, where the story that I tell you, it's just about residential property. I have not even touched commercial industrial land. Those kind of property transactions are a different ballgame. And if we just look at residential property alone, is it that simple? Is it really true that it's so simple that you do not need an agent? Let's take this scenario. Majority of the time, sellers would have this impression that it's very easy because they thought that we agent just open and close the door, right? We just hang the banner and wait for calls to happen. But this is not true. And if a seller could just do that by themselves, I would really challenge that. Why? Is because they just do not have the time. Come on, we're all busy people. We can't even afford time to go and get grocery by ourselves. We will just look at our phone and order Grab, Food Panda to just get our stuff delivered to our doorstep. And we don't even have energy that needs to be put into thinking what are the strategies to sell your house. Just a short story about this point, right? There was a seller that told us that, hey, you know what? I am a retired person. I have plenty of time. I have nothing else to do. I would like to try to sell the house by myself. And I'm like, okay, sure. Do you know how to start? And he said, I'm not very sure, but it's okay. I'm not in a rush to sell the property, so I want to try it. So he did. He actually marketed the property on Muda and some property portals and whatnot. And he realized that by just handling inquiries on the phone or, answering people some certain facts of his house, and he actually struggled. So truly, even though you have time and energy, it is not so simple to deal with strangers. And that comes to the second point, where selling your own home, your own house, which you have stayed for many, many years, it is, we all know that, we can all admit that it is a very emotional thing. So imagine today you are staying in this double-story landed house in, for example, Cheras, right? And this house is it's your first home that you and your wife put in the energy, the time to renovate, and this is your home for the past 20 years, and today you want to sell it. You want to upgrade, or perhaps you want to downsize. And I'm sure you would feel very sentimental, emotional about it. So imagine, right? Even though you want to do it by yourself, by selling the house, and there was a prospect buyer who's very interested, and then he came. He made an appointment with you. He came and take a look, and it's very easy to fall into that sentimental trap, where you would tell stories about your house, how you renovate the kitchen, how did you select the tiles, what was the how do I put it, the memories you have created in this part and that part. And not many prospect buyers actually appreciate those kind of information, because they don't want, actually most of us want a brand new house. So imagine buying a house from a seller that has so much emotion and sentiments over it. If I'm a buyer today, I will feel that, wow, you really love your house, and maybe I don't really want to buy from you, because I feel that you are probably not ready to let this house go. And there was this one time where we were the agent, and the seller was super emotional about his house. And guess what? When I was showing the buyer, he just intervened, and he was just telling stories and stories and stories about his house. And guess what? After the whole showing, I was asking the buyer, so how do you feel, is this house suitable for you and whatnot? And the buyer told me that, I think maybe if the seller don't talk so much, I'll be okay. And now that I've known what happened in this room, what happened in that area of the house, I don't feel very comfortable. And that was actually a fact, a true story, right? So when it comes to dealing emotional things, we tend to get carried away, and we cannot be super objective when we are dealing with something like that. And that's just the second point. The third point is, you want to try to sell it by yourself. Do you even know what is the right pricing? You should list your property. And even today, if you're a valuer, you know the value of a property, assuming you know how to price it correctly, strategically, so that people will inquire of your house, you probably will not be able to get the right buyer. Why do I say that? Because pricing it correctly is just one aspect of listing the property. You need to have the correct marketing strategy, right? Because nowadays, especially in this market where we're in a shifting market where supply is more than demand. So what does that mean? If you translate it into layman terms, is there are just so many options in the market, so many property to choose from. And if you're a buyer today, if you have a budget of 700,000, guess what? There's so many options, so many houses, so many competitors. So even if you know how to price it correctly, because nowadays information is widely accessible, but you may not have the correct marketing strategy. And that is where I want to continue the story which I told earlier about this man. And I told him that, your journey with us would be very different from the other agents. Why I say that? I said, unfortunately at that time, he did not meet an agent who has a high sense of fiduciary duty towards him. And what do I mean by that high sense of fiduciary duty? When I'm an agent, when our team is appointed to sell a property, our priority is always about the seller's needs, the seller's goals, the seller's direction. And we have a high sense of fiduciary duty, which means everything that we do, it's all about the sellers. So like how we show, how we market, how long will it take to dispose of the property, and the convenience of the seller, everything will be taken into account when we actually sell the property for the seller. So not just that, remember we talked about the shifting market and how do we have the most eyeballs on this property. Why we need so many eyeballs is because it's really a number game. If today this property is not highly exposed, and like I said earlier, 700,000, there are many options out there. So buyers are just spot for choice. They have so many houses to see, they may not even stumble upon yours. So then how do we position the property correctly to get as many eyeballs as possible, so that in the large number of buyers that have seen the house, there is one buyer who is interested and come and take a look. And after they take a look, they love it and they will make an offer. If the property itself does not generate that kind of impression in the market, it also means that we are reducing the pool of buyers who would actually inquire. And if there is not enough inquiries, which means the possibility is it has a very low rate of showing, which is viewings, we call it. And when there's a low rate, it means that the probability of us getting an offer is very low as well. So marketing strategy right now in this shifting market is super, super, super important. And if the agent just literally hang a banner outside of your house and expect a call from someone and eventually came and made an offer, the probability is very low. When the probability is very low, what that means is it may take a longer time for you to sell off your property. And not only that, you may need to keep reducing your price so that you are hoping to get a buyer that would see your house and make an offer. So in our team, marketing strategy is something that we really put in a lot of time and effort to think and to position the property for our sellers so that we can actually generate as many eyeballs as possible on this property. And the first thing we need to do is we have to think about, okay, traditional marketing, is it obsolete already? I don't think so. Traditional marketing coupled with the enhanced marketing, I believe that this is how it should be, which means we would try our best to maximize exposure when we sell your property. So traditional meaning is like property portals. So we take photos and we post it on property portals, and then we would expect a call from the inquiries. And that's it. That is pretty much the very traditional method of selling properties. And some owners would argue and say that, that's so easy, I can just open up an account in iProperty, Property Guru, or even Muda. Then I will just wait for the call. But they don't know that even in the portals itself, there are some tricks and hacks where we agents are very familiar to provide the maximum exposure in the property portals itself. For example, how much money do we pump into so that your listing is forever on the first page? And what kind of keywords you need to enter so that when buyers do their search on property portals, it's easy for your listing to come up. So all these things need certain skills, certain hacks, and the familiarity of us using the portals. So this is just a traditional method. Enhanced method, which we usually do in our team, is digital marketing. What does that mean? It means that we would actually create content about your property. How does creating content looks like? We would actually gather our people, our media team. We will go to your house. We will create a storyboard. We will tell a story about your house in a really cinematic, full of facts, even pricing, even the history of your house and whatnot, and we will put it in a YouTube long form video. So we'll post it up there, and then what we will do is we'll run ads. So we will actually pay YouTube, social media, Google to advertise your property. So why is that important? It's actually offers so much convenience to the seller. Why do I say that? Number one is, if the buyer is really interested and click on the video, the buyer actually has almost all the information he needs before he made an informed decision whether he wants to buy or not. So when he comes and actually make a physical viewing appointment, it is as good as a second viewing, because he just wants to come and feel the space, the atmosphere, the ambience, and then if he likes it, he will just make an offer. So imagine if we do not have those videos, you would probably be getting a lot of appointments, which we have actually experienced where the buyer just came. This is before we set up the media team. The buyer came, parked the car in front of the house, just entered into the car porch, and he looked around and he said, okay, I'm done with the house. And guess what? You've been wasting your time trying to declutter your house, trying to make it presentable, and trying to make the best possible impression to the buyer. And the buyer did not even enter the house. How would you feel? So we will try to eliminate all these inconvenience for our sellers. I want to make it easier, faster. Imagine today when we post a video and we run ads upon it, it's the impression that we get is definitely more than just property portals or people that walk past your house. So we find that so much more effective, so much more efficient, and the most importantly is it offers a great convenience for our sellers. So this is where we talk about the enhanced marketing, and that's just one aspect of enhanced marketing. We also do a lot of open houses for our sellers, and I think we have multiple success stories that comes from open house. And why sometimes do we deploy open house is such a time consuming, is labor intensive, because we have to hang about each open house that we conduct. We usually hang 30 to 50 banners, just directional signs to point to people that, hey, telling people that today we have an open house event. Just come. You do not need to make any appointments, and you can view the house. And normally when we deploy this kind of strategy is where the house is located at a higher traffic, we call it foot traffic area. So it's easier for people to just drop by, take a look, and things like that. So imagine yourself today wanting to sell your house, and you have to think about all these strategies. I really highly doubt that you are able to do so, and if you can, it may not be efficient, it may not be as effective as you hire an agent to do it for you. And you see, we just talk about marketing strategy, right? There's so much more work to need to be done for your house to be successfully transacted or successfully sold. When it comes to showing, right, less strategy about it. Like I said, there are more supply in the market right now. So if today I have a 700,000 budget, I may arrange 4 different houses to view on the same day because I want to save time. So if let's say I'm an agent today, I would also position what type of house should the buyer view first, and what type of house should the buyer view last, because all these things plays into the emotional part of a buyer. And if you do not have an agent, you are just selling a house like that, you do not know how to emphasize the unique selling points of your house, then you can't really extract the true essence and the true beauty of your house. And you may not be able to deliver the best sales pitch, we call it, right? In order to impress the buyer to make an offer. And that's just showing. What about negotiation? Remember we talked about, if let's say you're selling your own house, you tend to be emotional. And when you are in an emotional state, guess how you will perform during a negotiation? You would probably also be emotional when you want to negotiate, with the buyer. And as we all know, buyer always wants the cheapest deal, right? Especially in this market. So how then do you try to fight for your price, in so to speak, right? If let's say you're being emotional about it, how then do you have the best negotiation skill in order to get the most money in your pocket? I think this is one of the most crucial part that a lot of sellers underestimate, the art of negotiation. And many times you think you will lose money when you hire an agent, but on the contrary, you may lose money if you do it by yourself. And of course, fifth is the paperwork. So much to actually learn and master about paperwork. What do I mean by that? First of all, you need the letter of offer, and you need to know how much does the buyer needs to pay you for earnest deposit and which account. And many times, buyer will not be comfortable if they were to pay you the earnest deposit of 2% of the property into your personal account. Why do I say that? That's just too much scamming in this time, right? Buyers are wary, are cautious, and they would normally want to deposit the money into their lawyer's account or any other real estate agency as stakeholder. So if you do it by yourself, you may not know all these legalities and the consequences if you do something wrong. And what about the terms and condition in the letter of offer, and then subsequently the SPA and things like that? And so truly paperwork, if you do not know the intricacies of all the terms, right, you may already lose out, or you may put yourself in a very vulnerable position. Lastly, handover. Handover is not as simple as, okay, today is the handover. I'll just prepare all the keys and hand it over to the buyer. It's not as simple as that. Sometimes the buyer may come and inspect, and maybe there are certain promises that you have made to the buyer, and the buyer expect it to be delivered, and this is not done. What should you do? So there are still certain complications revolving around the whole handover stage. So really, selling a property, it's not as easy as we think. You think that, by paying 3% to hire an agent is not worth it. So let me just probably encourage you to just think through it. Why is it not worth it? Is it because the agent that you have approached cannot deliver what you expect? And that shouldn't be stopping you from looking for other agents who have a higher sense of fiduciary duty towards you, right? So really, having a knowledgeable agent will make all the difference. And hiring a good agent who knows how to deploy the best marketing strategy, who knows how to negotiate for you, and most importantly, always think about your needs first. Your needs come first instead of their commission. This would be really the thing that you need to look into when you want to sell your property. So that's about it for today's episode. Stay tuned for more episodes as we continue to explore the other aspects of the real estate issues in Malaysia. Until next time, thank you for listening to Connecting the Dots. Bye.